Sedlowski Garza with their opening statement.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Susan Sedlowski Garza. I'm a lifelong resident of the 10th Ward. My family has been in this ward for over 140 years. For almost 20 years, I've worked at the Chicago Public Schools as a counselor. I'm one counselor with 894 kids. I currently serve as Area Vice President for the Chicago Teachers Union. Excuse me. I'm in charge of 69 schools, which encompasses every school within the 10th Ward. For the past 15 years, I have served as Program Director for Hegwish Community Committee, I have brought in over $370,000 to the children in the 10th Ward and to the schools. I give after-school programs and summer programs to the students within the 10th Ward. I'm running for alderman because I care deeply about the children and the families of the 10th Ward, and I believe that we deserve better here. Some of the finest people that I have met have come from the 10th Ward. It doesn't matter if you've had a PhD from the University of Chicago or a degree, you got your education from the blast furnace. We know we're not getting a fair shake here, and I really believe that we deserve more. That's why I'm running.
Mr. Martinez.
Good evening. My name is Rich Martinez, 10th Ward Aldermanic candidate. I'm running for and want to serve as your alderman because I want to ensure that all 50,000 people in all 7 neighborhoods have a voice and say in city government. I will work to ensure that we have an advocate, representative, and an ambassador who will fight for you and represent you and your family's interests and agenda. As a husband and father of 5 children that we are raising here on the Southeast Side, just like you, I'm extremely concerned about the direction and future of this ward. The lack of police, an increase in crime, the lack of good paying jobs, a lack of educational opportunities, a lack of places to eat and shop, and other recreational opportunities. Many good families have already left the Southeast Side, and with the help of you and your family's vote, I want to turn the 10th Ward around and create a greater hope and future for our children and grandchildren. I believe 20 years of government experience, including actual experience in the Chicago City Council and the Illinois State Legislature, and also with the Water Reclamation District monitoring over $500 million in government construction contract for compliance, has me uniquely positioned to serve, to lead, and to guide this ward. And I appreciate you coming out tonight, and I thank you for your time.
Zar?
Olga. Hello, my name is Olga Bautista. I am running for alderman of the 10th Ward because I am a leader in this community, because I have proven my skills by organizing the Ban Pet Coke campaign. We now have the strictest regulations on pet coke storage and handling in the whole country. And I'm very proud of all the people that I've been working with alongside with me to ban and to get this nasty stuff out of our community. And I know that that is the only way we're going to be able to do anything in this community, is by banding together and working hard. And I have that experience. I have been organizing on immigrant rights since 2006. We were able to mobilize over 3,000 people to mobilization for big mega marches for immigrant rights in 2006. And since then, we now have DACA and DACA, which are laws that Obama has put in place to protect immigrants, and I know that that has come because of the pressure from below. And I know that those skills are what is needed in this community to be able to unite the community and to fight together so we can get the kind of community that is beneficial for everybody living here.
Juan.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I want to start, by the way, my name is Juan Huizar, 10th Ward Alderman candidate, but I do want to begin by, Perla, thank you for orchestrating this event today. Thank you for everyone that came out tonight, and of course the candidates sitting to my left and my right. I am a lifelong resident of the 10th Ward, born in South Chicago, then moved on over to the East Side neighborhood. I am a graduate of St. Francis de Sales, and I hold a bachelor's degree from Roosevelt University. And I have 10 years plus years in corporate America, which will prove to be my strong suit as well. But it's what I bring best to the table to run the 10th Ward. Most of my work with my community involvement has been on a volunteer basis. It has not been with my career. Most notably being the president of the East Side Little League, is the organization I've been involved with the past 5 years. It's actually the organization that I came up with as a child. I've held multiple coat drives and toy drives over the past 5 years, and I've done ad hoc projects here and there. One that comes to mind is when Immaculate Conception was, in dire need of, we needed to save the school. I, spearheaded a project with them. And I'm also a member of the MPC, which is Mexican Patriotic Club. And last but not least, I am bilingual, so para los que no entienden, los que quieren que puede traducir después, puedo hablar con ustedes después. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now we're starting with the second round. We're starting with Mr. Martinez. So what is your long and short-term plan for development for the ward, and how do you plan to accomplish this?
So the question is, what is my long-term, short-term and long-term?
long-term goal for the development in the ward?
Okay, for economic development. Thank you. Short-term, obviously, we have a number of tracts of land that need to be remediated. We need to utilize our TIF dollars. We need to utilize federal government brownfield tax credits to get properties developed here on the southeast side, specifically the LTV property on Avenue O, the Acme Steel property on Torrance Avenue are areas that are highly contaminated, need to be cleaned up. We also need to incorporate the environmental justice principles that I'm a co-author of to be able to provide a parameter and a guideline for new development that comes into our community. We're tired of the dirty, polluting industry that has been negatively impacting our health and impacting the land here on the southeast side. We also need to put some things in place, such as community benefit agreements, not just on the Lakeshore Development Project, but on all major development projects, so that we can ensure that all 10th wards have an opportunity to benefit from whatever work takes place in the ward, which includes job training, contracting opportunities, things of that nature. These are things that have not happened over the last 15 years. Unfortunately, under the current administration, there's been a secret pipeline where when those companies come in, they give campaign contributions to him and they hire people that he sends. There's no return on investment for this community, and that needs to change.
Mr. Martinez, a quick follow-up question.
Yes.
Some people don't know what TIF dollars are. In a few sentences, can you explain that?
So tax increment finance dollars are dollars that are utilized by the city. There's several districts, for example, that are in the 10th ward. Your tax dollars go over a certain levy for the governing body, agencies, park districts, school board, things of that nature. They go into certain funds. Those funds are to be utilized for blighted areas and to be utilized for redevelopment. And we haven't seen a very good job of that being done here. There has been $90 million of your tax dollars, of your TIF dollars, that have been utilized for the Lakeshore redevelopment. But we need to do a better job. We need to have transparency and accountability with those dollars.
Thank you. Olga, I can repeat the question for you. What is your short and long-term plan for development of the 10th Ward, and how will you accomplish this?
Okay. So we already know that Lakeside Development is coming to our community. It's a project that is going to be right alongside Lakeshore Drive that's been, or Route 41 that has been moved over, and it crosses around Bush. And anybody hasn't seen the new 41, and it's on the site of the old U.S. Steel site. And the idea is that they're going to build this new opulent, luxurious area, residential area with shopping and all the rest of it for people that are not going to be us. They're talking about $250,000 condos. You know, that's unheard of. We will not be able to afford that kind of thing. But what we have learned is that that area, the U.S. Steel Realty and the city of Chicago owns over 80 lots right now in South Chicago. So if the city of Chicago is interested in redevelopment and also affordable redevelopment and affordable housing for folks here in the southeast side of Chicago, then let's have a good faith promise and have them start developing these 80 lands. We don't need to wait 30 to 40 years. There's things that we need here, like community centers, like gardens for our kids, places for a boy girls club, recreational opportunities for our youth, for our seniors. There has to be something more than just McDonald's for our seniors. So I think short term, that's what we need to do, is to hold them accountable on that. And then long term is also to redevelop this green economic corridor that we call the the Calumet River, that we can start developing that in a way that it's going to be sustainable and healthy for our community, not the kind of industry that we have right now, which is pollution and more pollution.
Right. Thank you, Olga. Sue?
My short term, sorry. Short term, I want to form advisory committees, and I want to form advisory committees using constituents from every neighborhood within the ward. I want to form committees on education, safety, health, business and jobs, youth and seniors. I want to use the constituents of the 10th Ward as resources. I don't want to make decisions by myself. I want a ward run by the people, for the people. That's what true democracy is, brothers and sisters. We form these decisions together. Another short-term goal I would like to do is participatory budgeting. When the budget is allocated, I want to have a community meeting, and I want to ask you what the priorities are, where the priorities need to be, where the tax money needs to be spent, so we decide together where that money goes. Not just one person making decisions, us as a community. This is when I am elected, it will be a joint effort with all of us, not just myself. My long-term goals are also to create green jobs, union run, not just brought in, somebody's friend is going to get a job. The whole thing about patronage, that's not going to happen with me in office. I want complete transparency. I'm going to hold community meetings once a month. I'm going to have surveys where you can tell me how I'm doing, if I'm doing well, if I'm doing bad, what we can do together to make things better. I'm going to use you to help me run this ward. That's how I'm going to do it.
Thank you. So you mentioned everyone has sort of mentioned a little bit about getting the community involved, reaching out, respect, dignity. You mentioned something about holding meetings, and everyone has. What does that look like exactly? How do you get the community more involved? Like some concrete plans.
Okay, some concrete plans. I'm sorry.
Olga, right? Did you start last one?
Did I start? Yeah, I started this line.
Okay. Economic development, you want all the short term and the long term.
No, do we get to follow up?
Oh, no. Sorry. I didn't answer the last question, right?
Right.
Sorry, go.
Oh, that's why you called on
Yeah,
to me.
that's yours.
Okay.
Sorry.
So with economic development, short term and long term, this is the one area where I would like to think I shine. Like I said, my degree is in finance, and I do have 10 years in corporate America. So I do understand what it takes to revitalize a neighborhood. I understand the tools that you have in your toolbox that you can use to bring in, companies from the outside. Tools such as there's so many credits out there, you'd be amazed. At the federal level, at the state level, and if need be at the municipal level, you have TIF, which is what Rich touched on a little while ago. There's been too many times in this neighborhood where there's been missed opportunities. I'll give you a couple examples. There's a company named Tesla. It's the biggest builder of luxury cars, and we had an opportunity to land them here, but we missed on that opportunity because you cannot just sit here and wait for these jobs to fall in your lap. You need to be proactive and go after them. They actually recently had a deal with Panasonic to build a $5 billion battery factory, and we missed out on it. That was going to bring 6,500 jobs and $100 billion over 20 years. So we missed out on that one. As of September, Nevada ended up getting that plant. Another one was Boeing. Boeing actually locked in a $6.8 billion contract with NASA to build space shuttles. Their headquarters is already here in Chicago, so it shouldn't have been too hard to try to land those guys. And we lost that to Florida as well. So in essence, what I'm trying to say is we can't sit here and just expect all these little jobs to fall in our laps. You need to be proactive, and go get them. And like I said, that's, if there's anything I can bring to the table the most, to this position is my experience in corporate America, because I understand what it's going to take to revitalize a neighborhood. I understand what tools it takes, and I know how to sell the 10th Ward. There's one thing I like to preach over and over is we have the 3 Rs, which is the rails, the roads, and the rivers. it's a prime spot for any company to come set up shop. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 2, Ron. It's Mr. Martinez. I have to repeat it again. But so, to be short, how do you involve the community? Give me specific plans.
Well, it starts first with communication. And we've had a serious communication gap in the last 15 years. So communicating with our constituents, via newsletter, via, social media, just communicating with the residents and the constituents of the ward to let them know what is happening or what can happen in the ward, keeping people informed on a regular basis, inviting people to participate in the decision-making process. Part of what I'm going to be doing is setting up neighborhood advisory councils that I'll meet with on a monthly basis, the 7 different neighborhoods that make up the 10th Ward. I'm also going to establish a pastoral council where I'll meet with all the pastors and the clergy in the 10th Ward on a monthly basis as well. And then outside of that, have town hall meetings to bring the ward up to speed. Where are we at? What's ahead? And where do we need help? But we have to engage the community. Unfortunately, what's happened in the last 15 years is that somebody has continuously told the people, no, 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 we can't do it, we can't do it, we can't do it. And I'm here to say that, yes, we can do it, and we can do it together.
Thank you. Olga?
Sure. So you're saying how we will organize
So
to get the
concrete-
community?
Yeah, concrete plan, or what do you see to involve the community in the decisions?
Okay, so this is a good question, because for the last year and a half, that's exactly what I've been working on, is how to galvanize a community to take action, to do something for themselves. And I think there's no easy way. You can't wish people to come to a meeting. You actually have to go door to door. You have to talk to people. You have to be and go where the people are, where they're already organized. Going to churches, going to LSC meetings, talking to people who've already established themselves as leaders in the community through churches, through schools, and talking to them. We have a lot of education to do still. People in this neighborhood still don't know about Pet Coke and about TIFs. So I think having educational opportunities by going to the schools, doing that sort of thing, but also being creative and using Twitter and Facebook. And I know there was ideas floating around about letting people know when the bridges were out, and communicating through Twitter and doing things like that. And I think that we need to take use this opportunity that we have these social medias, and also like reaching out to seniors and people who don't have access to the internet. It is hard work, but it's important work, and there's only one way to do it, and it's actually by rolling up your sleeves and doing it. And that's what I've been doing, and that's why we have, like I said before, the strictest regulations on pet coke handling, because we did that hard work.
Thank you.
For the past 25 years, I've been a community organizer. In my experience with the Chicago Teachers Union, I know how to organize people. We organized 33,000 people into the street to protest against Rahm Emanuel's corporate America agenda. I really believe that once you start to involve people through community meetings and bring people in and let them be part of the decision-making process, people start to take pride in their community. They start to feel attached to the community, and they feel like they're really part of it. People are resources here. I want you to think about something. We've never been asked what we want, what we need, or what we would like to see for our future. And if you ask yourself one question, has our ward gotten better or worse in the past 14 years? It's gotten worse. And no one has ever asked us if we wanted pet coke or if we wanted agrifine. No one's ever included us in the decision-making process. And I intend to do that via Twitter, via Facebook, via monthly surveys. The last Thursday of every month, you're going to know where I'm at. Whether it be my office or the hall at Crowbar Jovial Club, you're going to know that I'm going to be there in the same place, the same time, the last Thursday of the month, and people can come and talk to me. And they can tell me what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, what they'd like to see. I want to include everybody in this process. That's what democracy is. And that's what makes a ward where people start to take pride and make this community come back to the vibrant community it once was.
Juan.
Okay, the question is pretty much inclusion.
Specific plans to include the community in the decisions.
Okay. One, it's a pretty hard task considering, geographically, this is the biggest ward in the city of Chicago. And our neighborhoods are divided by viaducts and bridges and such. And as you look around from all the neighborhoods, it's pretty diverse as far as cultures. So that's why I think it's very hard, not only because of, geographically where they are, but because of the cultures. You have Caucasians, you have every single race pretty much in here. I mean, you even have Haitians over in the south side. So it is something that's pretty hard to do. But to go about it, I would think, one, it starts at the Aldermanic office. You have to have an open door policy. And I think you need to make yourself more readily available than just once a month. Another thing you need to do is the communication from the office onto the constituents needs to get better. Social media, that is one of them. People are utilizing Facebook. People are using Twitter. Any avenue you can think of, they're going to utilize it. I actually, with respect, I copied something out of the book of CPS when working for the East Side Little League. I thought the communication was really poor between the board and the parents. So I took a page out of CPS, and what I did is I created the mass texting to reach out to the parents. No longer did I expect people to come to visit a website, to go check their Facebook, because not everyone is on social media. So you can't expect them to come to you. So you need to go at them. And nowadays, everyone has a cell phone, whether it's a smartphone or a regular phone. So I created the mass texting to reach out to them, and it's worked out great. And another form of inclusion is the participatory budgeting. The alderman has a $1.3 million of menu money to use, for his ward. If you can include the people to tell them how they want their money spent. It's their money. It's their taxpayer money. So, and you'll do that through participatory budgeting.
Thank you. Okay. Start with Olga this round. Right now, we're going to talk a little bit about children. What ideas do you have in mind to protect our children, to enrich them, give them opportunities, and how do you plan to achieve this?
Joining a gang is free. And if you have a family who has 3, 4, 5 kids, joining a sport like baseball or hockey, it can be very costly in equipment and uniforms. And I think that one important thing that we need to do is offer more free services to our youth, recreation opportunities to keep the kids off the street and doing things that are more interesting and also thrilling, because when you're a young teenager, you want to do things that are exciting and fun. So I think we need to be able to offer that to our children so that they don't look for things that are going to be harmful to the community or to themselves. I think that also, our parks, we have gems in this neighborhood. We have a forest preserve and Calumet Park with the beach and the tennis courts. And I think offering free services to young people and to families, or even on a sliding scale, so that people have that opportunity and that option so that their children can do something in this community so that they're not on the streets. And that would be the first thing that I would do.
Okay. Could you repeat the question?
Yes. What will you do to protect, enrich, and give our children opportunities, and how do you plan to accomplish this?
Okay. I honestly think you're accomplishing 2 things by doing that.
Could you speak closer to the mic a little bit?
I actually think you're accomplishing 2 things with that. Not only with respect to the kids, but also to the crime. There's a lot of these issues, a lot of the questions that are going to have been asked, to us through questionnaires, through work in the streets, campaigning, and crime and the youth there's a very strong correlation. The reason I say that is because you can think of all kinds of ways to stop the short-term crime. You can say, let's put stricter gun laws. You can say strategic placement of police officers. But I honestly believe if you can get to the root of the problem before it even starts, which is the kids, you can prevent everything. Bringing about, youth programs, whether it's sports, whether it's visual arts, sculpting, carving, painting, dance, whatever it is, the thing is, if you can reach out to these kids and win them over before the streets do, then that's a win right there. That's your future. If you can invest in your future as much as possible, that's going to prevent your problems, right, for crime. And not only are you preventing the problem of crime, but you're setting them up, for the future. I'll give you one quick example. The reason I believe so much in education is I have a friend, and he lives in Orland. His kid actually dropped out of school from high school, but he didn't drop out because he was a bad student or he was a bad kid. He dropped out because their schooling system was so well off that he felt that he had the necessary tools to take on the world. So this kid started his own company, and it's still early in the stages, but he seems to be doing very well. So you need to invest as much as you can into youth. So, I mean, it's no secret that the taxing bodies, if you notice when you pay your property taxes, the majority, 58% is going into CPS. There's a reason for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Sue?
For the past 15 years, I have done just this. I have worked with Highwish Community Committee. I'm the program director there, and I've secured over $370,000 in grant money to provide enrichment programs for kids within the 10th Ward. I've worked with the Women's Sports Foundation. I've worked with Go Girl Go. I've taken kids to Cincinnati, Washington, D.C., Kings Island, Sox games, Cubs games. Well, not really Cubs games, but sorry. But I also believe that we really need to look at the kids. We need to treat the kids socially and emotionally, because kids are they don't just need enrichment programs. They need to be taught about, safe sex and STDs and positive choices, and how some of these kids come from multi-generational of gang activities, and they don't know anything else. Especially in school, you only have kids for 7 hours a day. They spend the rest of the day at home with their parents, so you're competing with what they're learning at home too. We really need to provide after-school programs that can give kids the tools they need to be self-sufficient, to give them opportunities to learn how to fill out a job application, to make sure that they feel good about themselves, so they don't join those gangs, so they don't go out and do that other thing. We've worked with people I've worked with Chicago Communities in Schools. I'm a site coordinator there for 12 years, and I work with them. They give me access to over 180 agencies where free services are given to these children. And it's not just enrichment programs. Glasses, medicine, mental health programs, coats, shoes, anything they need to make them actually, be better off. So I've already been doing that.
Thank you.
The issue here is about resources. And the 10th Ward has been a resource-deprived ward for at least 15 years. And Alderman has a tremendous opportunity to go and to be the greatest advocate and the greatest cheerleader for their ward. It's my job as an alderman to communicate our needs for the Chicago Public Schools that are in our ward to the school board. It's my job as an alderman to communicate the needs of all of our Park District facilities to the Chicago Park District Board. It's my job as an alderman to communicate the needs for our Forest Preserve to our Cook County Commissioner. And for all those, we should all know that we have the only state park in the whole city of Chicago, William Powers. And I think it's a shame that the Indiana side of Wolf Lake looks the way it does. And here in the great city of Chicago on the southeast side, look at how it looks. We can do much better, we could do much more, but we need an advocate. And I propose to be that advocate to go and to bring those resources into our ward and into our community. And it also includes more police too. Our police department has been depleted. We don't have any beat integrity because there's just not enough personnel. And so I've advocated, as a former CAPS beat facilitator, to even dip into some of the TIF funds citywide to hire the additional police that we need. We don't have beat cars on their beats because there's just not enough police. We spent $100 million in overtime because the city has not kept up its end of the bargain to hire the additional police that we need on the streets. It's an issue of resources, and it's an issue of having an alderman that's going to go fight for you and know how to get those resources and bring those resources back into the ward.
last question. Okay. So you, hypothetically, you start your term. You know, what are your top 3 goals once you step in that office? Juanito. Juan, please. Sorry.
Top 3 goals. My top 3 goals are the same as everyone else's. As the campaign trail has gone on, and you're going door knocking, the one thing that is on everybody's mind, whether it's priority number 1 or priority number 2, has always been the crime, the safety. Education, there's some people that might not care about education because their kids are already grown, or maybe they don't have any kids. Some of the jobs, not everyone is unemployed, so a lot of people really don't care about the jobs as much. But the one thing that everybody agrees with is a crime, the safety, because everybody sees that and everybody encounters. It's something tangible that everyone sees. So my biggest thing is the same one as the constituents, which is the safety. So in order to combat safety, there's lots of things that we can start with. One is, hire more police officers. But more importantly than hiring the police officers is the strategic placement of the police officers. What I mean by that is, again, the 10th ward is so big, and we're divided by the trains and the trains and the rivers, that lots of times the response time of police officers is pretty poor. It's not their fault, but the fact that we are divided by the bridges and the tracks, it's an obstacle course. So with strategic placements, you have beat cars, and then you have your sector cars, which is kind of like floaters. If there's ever a beat that is down in manpower, you need to make sure that someone is there. You cannot expect for one car to fly over from Slag over to the East Side neighborhood, because if that bridge is up, your response time is going to be really, really low. And it's not just with cops, it's also with ambulances. So you need to cut down the response times, and you're going to do that by strategic placement. And again, with combating crime, the best way to combat crime is to prevent it, which is going back to the kids, having programs for the kids. So in a nutshell, my number 1 priority is the same one as everybody else's, which is the crime and the safety. Thank you.
Okay. Sue, top 3 priorities, step in office.
I'm sorry?
The top 3 goals, priorities you do when you step in office.
Well, I agree with Juan. Is one of the biggest issues that I see too is crime and safety. We did a poll in our campaign, and the number 1 issue with 597 people took the survey, and the number 1 issue in our ward was jobs. Crime and safety was 2, and keeping public education public was 3, along with stop privatizing public services, which I found very interesting. Pretty soon, Rahm Emanuel has privatized a lot of services in our ward, in our city. The parking meters. Now he wants to privatize the garbage truck drivers. Within CPS, the janitors are privatized. The lunchrooms are privatized. We're paying taxes, and then they're forcing it out to private services. One of the things that I would like to say is that South Chicago, to elaborate a little bit on this, South Chicago pays an SSA fund, and one of the questions that you had asked earlier is about police. And South Chicago has to pay, the merchants on commercial pay an extra tax so that they can hire private police to patrol up and down commercial. That shouldn't happen. We have to go back to the days of the beat cop, when there was always a cop on commercial, a cop in Hegwish, a cop on the east side. You knew the guy's name. East Side's cop was named Bernie. I mean, why are we paying money? Why are our taxes going for services, and then they're turning around and being privatized? I don't believe in that.
Mr. Martinez.
My top 3 goals at the inception of a new administration, first would be to bring the ward together, unify the 7 neighborhoods, put in place the 7 neighborhood advisory councils I mentioned earlier, the pastoral council, start to build a community-wide infrastructure so that we as warders can work together moving forward. The second goal is to work on the complete ban of pet coke in the 10th ward. Our campaign over the last several months was able to secure over 1,000 signatures to get a referendum placed on the ballot in the February 24th election, which is going to allow all of you as 10th warders to be empowered, to have a voice and a say as to whether or not you want pet coke, the million tons that have already come into the east side and projected up to 11 million tons annually into the east side. We want to put a stop to that. The third is to bring McCaffrey and the lakeside development back to the table. One, to discuss a community benefits agreement. It is very unfortunate that the current alderman did not negotiate that community benefits agreement on behalf of the community at the front end of this development. So the community now has acted upon its own to try to force a community benefits agreement. This shouldn't have had to been forced. It should have been done. It should have been one of the first of his priorities, but he failed to do that. So we want to bring them back to the table so that we can include the community, so we can protect the property owners in the Bush and South Chicago that are going to be impacted by the redevelopment. The business owners on Commercial Avenue, they're going to be impacted by the redevelopment. And if we here on the east side in Hegewisch think that we're not going to be impacted by the redevelopment, we need to think again. We will be. So we've got to bring them back to the table. And as your alderman, I promise to do that. Thank you.
Olga Bautista.
So this lakeside development is going to be one of the largest construction plans the city has had in a very, very long time. There is a lot of danger for our community not being at the table. And I think that what's going to happen is that the neighborhoods right outside of lakeside development are going to be an extension of lakeside development. It's going to be very difficult to live and to afford to live in 30, 40 years in South Chicago, in Bush. And those families are going to be displaced. They're going to be pushed out. And we've seen this happen. This is not something that is imagined or speculated, but we've seen this happen in areas like Cabrini Green. We've seen this happen with the Robert Taylor homes. When they start to redevelop an area, the families there can't live there anymore, and they're pushed out. Our neighborhood was a receiving neighborhood for the Robert Taylor, when the Robert Taylor homes were torn down. And one thing that we need to do here is we need to be able to be at the table to have a CBA, a community benefits agreement that has enforcement and enforcement lines on there, and also timelines. You know, if the company does not agree and doesn't follow through with those plans, then they should be able to be penalized either in criminal or civil court. And I think that is a very important first thing to do. Also, I think bringing not just jobs to the community, but also sustainable jobs that are not going to be hurting our community, because we do live on this wonderful river that has been an international port, and there is a lot of money to be made, but it should be made in a very responsible way. So we are already working with urban planners from Sustainable South Bronx who have been advising the campaign, have been advising the Petco campaign on that.
Thank you. Sue, next question. Within your aldermanic powers, what can be done to keep the residents in this ward and reinvesting in this ward?
I think the first thing I would do is form an advisory council with people from this ward to brainstorm on what we can do to keep people, especially young professionals, from leaving. There's a lot of young professionals that, you know, get a degree and they move away because there's not really anything here, right? I mean, we can't even buy a book in our neighborhood. So I'd like to form an advisory council on some things that we can do. I'd like to use TIF money to entice small businesses to come to our ward, or to help small businesses that are already here expand. That in turn could create jobs. I think one of the things, we have a beautiful, the east side is beautiful. I mean, like Rich said, we have a lot of parks, we have a lot of really good amenities here that people don't really take advantage of. But I'd really like to take that to the people and talk to people and brainstorm on how we can make people want to stay here. Because right now, it's a hard thing to do. People don't want to stay. And I think it's a shame. I've been here my whole life, and I can't imagine living somewhere else. But the east side isn't what it used to be. So I think we can use TIF money to entice people, you know, small businesses to come, to keep people here, to revitalize this neighborhood like it once was.
Okay. Mr. Martinez.
Sure. With regard to the small business, I'm just going to speak regarding our commercial districts as far as keeping them investing in our commercial districts, Ewing Avenue, Baltimore Avenue, Commercial Avenue. One of the things that I'm proposing is the implementation of a free trade zone, which would call for the reduction or the minimizing of the city sales tax for our commercial districts, which would help make them much more competitive with the businesses in Northwest Indiana and the south suburbs. But ultimately, when we talk about reinvesting in our community, it goes back to a lot of the same issues that we've been talking about here tonight. It goes back to crime and safety. We need to create a safe neighborhoods, safe community, job creation. We need to be able to create the right type of jobs, good paying union jobs that do not harm the land or our health. And we also need to be able to work on increasing the recreational opportunities. All of our families travel everywhere for everything else. For some people, the work. Some people travel up to 2 hours each way to go to work. For our kids are going to high schools all over the city of Chicago. Same thing, 2 hours each way. We need to reinvest in our community. We need by reinvesting in our people and by having an alderman that is going to have an open door policy and an alderman that knows how to get the job done, how to identify the resources, and how to bring those resources back here to the southeast side where they belong. Thank you.
Ms. Bautista, within your aldermanic powers, what can be done to keep our residents reinvesting inside within our community?
I think that the first thing is to be able to keep the businesses that are here, right? And I think that we've seen so many businesses close, restaurants and, other businesses here. And I think that it's important for us to be able to create opportunities for entrepreneurs, because I think we have a lot of people from this community who are interested in that and who don't want to go outside of the community to build their business. They want to do it here. And I think that we need to support that. And also, I think working closely with the Chamber of Commerce here in the South Chicago and in the East Side so that we can have resources for entrepreneurs so that they can stay open and be thriving, not just barely surviving in this community. Also, I think workforce development opportunities for people, like something that they've done in New York is they train people from the neighborhood to do retrofits of homes so that they're energy efficient. And I think that's a really great opportunity for our neighborhood, because we do have lakeside development coming here, and we could be training our families and our young people now for those jobs that are going to be available then. And those are working on a LEED construction and an environmental, a green building is actually a very competitive salary. So we already know that there's 2 programs in the state of Illinois, one in Champaign and one at Truman College, that does this type of certification. I think it would be a very easy thing to do to bring it not just to the City College at Truman, but also to bring it down here to Olive Harvey, so that we can start doing those kind of trainings today for the people that are here right now, so that we can stay here in this community.
Thank you. And just, if any of you need me to repeat a question, feel free to ask, okay? Mr. Huizar, within your aldermanic powers, what can be done to keep our residents reinvesting within our community?
Okay. Well, one, it's extremely difficult to do that. You have a lot of people leaving here. You have a lot of citizens leaving here, and you have a lot of businesses that are leaving here. And the reason they're doing so, it goes back to resources again. We don't have many resources here in the 10th Ward. Like Rich said earlier, we leave the 10th Ward for most of our products and services. There was a time in the 10th Ward when we used to be the neighborhood when they used to come here for the products and services. Those days are gone, but we need to get those days back where now they come here for their products and services. People always want a better life. Let's go to our ancestors. The reason they came to the United States, the reason they left home country was because they wanted better for themselves. So they came here. Well, now they're here, and guess what? They're still moving, they're still relocating, because there's always the next best thing. So, and for that reason, a lot of the young professionals, they are leaving here. A lot of them stay here, but a lot of them leave. Why? Because the lack of resources, and guess what? They can afford to get up and leave. So they do get up and leave. Can you blame them? No. But you know what? I chose to stay here because I happen to believe that, I could be that person that can actually, make that change. With respects to my background, believe it or not, like I said earlier, there's tax incentives for everything, and there actually is a tax incentive to help keep businesses here. There's a special tax out there that will make it very competitive for our businesses here in the 10th Ward to be able to compete against Indiana. It's very hard to compete with Indiana. Jewel did not renew their lease. Why? Because not all, aside from the Aldi study up next door, you can go to Sturks and not pay any taxes on food. So that's exactly why it's hard to compete. In essence, what I'm trying to do here is, look, I just want to make the 10th Ward proud, and I want the rest of Chicago to know who we are, and we're going to do that by making sure that we are the destination for everyone to come here once again, rather than us having to leave the ward for every product and service. Thank you.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to shift a little bit. So I'll let you make your closing statements. After your closing statements, we're going to go to the community questions, okay? So we're going to start if you need a minute or so, we're going to start the closing statements with Sue. And the closing statements are 2.5 minutes.
Sorry, you guys. Okay. We deserve to live in a clean environment without toxins in our air and our water. The North Side doesn't have pet coke or agrifine. I call this environmental racism. I support a complete ban on pet coke. I also, they're pushing to put this building, and why didn't they put the building, if they really cared about us, why didn't they put the building first, right? We deserve to have programs and recreational opportunities for our seniors and our youth. And we deserve to know where our TIF money and our alderman's budget is spent. We deserve transparency. We deserve the right to say how and where our tax money is spent. According to the City of Chicago, the definition of TIF is to help local companies expand and create employment opportunity for Chicago residents. That's not happening here. We don't even know where our TIF money is at. This is what I intend to do: entice small business and create employment opportunities by using our TIF funds. I have stood up against corporations and millionaires that have tried to balance the budget on the backs of the working families, our children and our senior citizens, by cutting programs and trying to steal our pensions. I will fight to implement the LaSalle Street tax. This tax could generate a significant amount of money, millions of dollars a year, that could secure workers' pensions, fund our schools, and reinstate hundreds of wraparound services that have been cut. Our current alderman voted on Rayo Rahm Emanuel's budget that closed 54 mental health facilities. Some of my kids have to wait 6 months to get an appointment with a therapist. It's kind of like suicide hotline, please hold. That's not right. I will vote no on any bill that threatens to cut a worker's pension. I will ensure that the jobs that are brought to the 10th Ward are green and union run. And I will continue to fight for an elected school board. I'm the campaign that got that on the ballot this time. Like I said, I want to form advisory committees using every constituent from the ward, and never doubt that a group of concerned citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has.
Time. Thank you very much. Mr. Martinez.
Well, in addition to my 20 years of government experience that I referenced earlier, I have a degree from Loyola University in political science, criminal justice, and also over the last 20 years I've served and fought for families in the 10th Ward. I've served as a CAPS Beat facilitator, served on the Washington High School Local School Council, was president of the Southeast Lions Club. Working with the community, I've helped to lead the fight against the polluting Leucadia coal gasification plant that they wanted to build across the street from Washington High School. And out of that victory, we created the Environmental Justice Alliance of Greater Southeast Chicago. And out of that, I helped to co-author the Environmental Justice Principles for all future economic development here on the Southeast Side. In addition to that, I've also invested in and mentored over 200 young men here on the Southeast Side. As we have mentioned, many of us have mentioned, we've worked with the community to help ban Petcoke. We already referenced the ballot referendum that we have on the ballot for the February 24th election. In addition to that, our platform includes the utilization of TIF funds to hire 2,000 additional police officers that we desperately need. We call for the creation of a green industrial corridor, ensuring safe, healthy, and good-paying union jobs in the ward. I'm calling for a moratorium on all public funding of charter schools. I support the election of the Chicago Public School Board. I'm calling for the establishment of a Veterans Resource Assistance Center, a permanent one, and housing, and increased housing for veterans in the 10th Ward. I'm also calling for the establishment of a project labor agreement for all major projects in the 10th Ward that would make those jobs union. I call for the creation of a steelworkers museum to properly honor the legacy of steelworkers here on the southeast side. And also calling for, on the Lakeside Redevelopment Project, to bring an economic anchor to that project, which they currently do not have, to go out and to identify a private university and hospital complex that can be utilized to be the anchor, to build around, to be a blessing to this community, and to bless the people of the 10th Ward. As I close, I make this promise and pledge to you and your families, I will be the hardest working alderman in the City Council. I'll fight for you and represent you and your families in the City Council. I will be your alderman all 4 years, not just the last 6 months, and I will represent all 7 neighborhoods of the 10th Ward, and I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Ms. Bautista?
I think that in this community, what has hurt us is the inability to be able to link up with other neighborhoods, to be able to work together. And I think that has been an obstacle that I'm ready to step up to the plate and remediate. I think that the families in Hegewisch and the families in South Chicago and Jeffrey Manor and the East Side have a lot in common. We are working class families. We all want jobs. We want opportunities for our youth. And also we want a neighborhood that is a thriving neighborhood, not one that is just barely surviving. So as alderman of the 10th Ward, my priority is going to be to unite the families, unite these neighborhoods so that we can actually be a force, a united force of 10th Warders who are sick of being thrown away and thrown aside when the unions close and they don't want us anymore. And then Lakeside comes up and they're going to throw us away again so that we could fend for ourselves and be pushed out of our neighborhoods. These neighborhoods and this city was built on the backs of the people from South Chicago. We are teachers, we are nurses, we are moms and dads, we're police officers, firemen. We are the backbone of this neighborhood, and it cannot run without us. So I think that I am the right candidate and the right leader that's going to be able to see the commonalities between these different groups and the different neighborhoods, and it's going to be able to join them together so that we are not taken advantage of anymore, and that we have an advocate that's going to fight for us. I'm a mother of a 7-year-old and a 1.5-year-old baby. This is not an easy task to be a candidate for alderman, running my family and being part of the Petco campaign. But I am up for that challenge because we have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And that's why I was able to get on the ballot and organize the strictest regulations on Petco with my community, because I saw the value in working together. And I will work with anybody who is going to be truthful, who is going to be ready to roll up their sleeves and do the work that needs to be done in this community. And that's why I am the best candidate for this job, and that's why I will win.
We're going to take a quick break. We have to switch the tape. So you have a second.